already messed up. We're going to act like that didn't happen. I should just start over. No, we're already live.
It didn't play?
It started from not the beginning.
Let's try it again. Just hit play again. See what happens. I want to know what happens.
See, we're already past it. All right, we're just going to keep going. Welcome back to another episode of the King's Pulse podcast presented by the King's Herald. My name is Brendan Nunez. The little error there at the beginning is because StreamYard, our hosting platform, allows us to do background music, so I tried to play with having the intro there at the beginning and didn't go amazingly, but we're going to keep flowing here. I got Frankie Cardicelli of Sacktown Sports 1140 joining me today. We got two of the three amigos from the last episode. What's going on, Frank? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I just enjoyed what could be Keegan Murray's last game of the summer, ? That's something we'll probably talk about a little bit, but definitely was a fun evening if you are into that kind of thing. But I'm staying cool. Thinking about what I'm having for dinner a little bit. I've seen some Arby's references. They're on the Twitter feed. I don't know if that's going to be the route I'm going, but how you doing, man? Are you recovered from Vegas? I mean, because of that last night, you and Chris did go out and I stayed back like the old man that I am. So how was it? Are you recovered?
Yeah, I'm recovered. I think that I'm still getting back on a sleep schedule that's not Vegas because we were staying out a little bit later and didn't have to wake up till a little bit later. So I'm getting back used to my early morning walks with Molly, or else she'll let me know about it if it doesn't happen. And before we go into the meat and potatoes of this episode, just shout out to Chris. Chris is sick, so that's why he's not on this episode. And I do want to say Chris does not have enough followers on Twitter, and this isn't just me hyping up my guy. Chris takes phenomenal pictures, and I'm going to peer pressure him into posting some Kings takes a little bit more often too. But if you're not already, go follow Chris at Chris M. Watkins on Twitter.
Yeah, Chris is he's a quiet guy. I think he's shy, and he's just starting to kind of break out of his bubble. He's a damn talented photographer and videographer, and for sure, people need to go see the work he does because he's starting to kind of tap into that side of things. He put up some great practice footage a week or so ago, some great summer league footage. He's a wizard with the camera, so definitely go check him out because he's a pal. He's a good buddy of ours. So, and he's resting up right now, so he needs
Absolutely.
it.
And anybody listening to the audio format, we are on YouTube as well. I always forget to mention this every episode, still getting the hang of that. And we're going live today as well. So anybody in the chat here that wants to drop us any questions or anything, we'll have a Q&A segment a little bit later. But if you're listening to the audio and would prefer video, then you can check that out on YouTube. The plan today is to go through Game 4 of Summer League that the Sacramento Kings just played against the Lou King-led Phoenix Suns. We're going to talk about the KZ Okpala edition, a little bit of this or that with some rotational guys, and then we have a Q&A segment that's going to be kind of how we wrap up this one. And just to start with this Game 4 that the Kings just played against the Suns in Las Vegas Summer League, maybe a little bit of a worry at the end there when the Kings couldn't buy a bucket to save their life with Keegan Murray on the bench. But what are some of your main takeaways, or what stood out the most to you, Frank, from this Suns and Kings game?
Well, Keegan Murray has to start it. I mean, the guy has a 20-point, 10-rebound double-double in 3 quarters, 22 minutes. I think we know, I think we kind of knew coming into tonight that he didn't really need to play tonight. He probably needed to play. I mean, obviously, retroactively, we can't really say that because you have to see him play to have this thought process. But he didn't really even need to play in Summer League is what I think. I think he is someone who now we know for sure is completely ready for the big stage this fall. And seeing him create the way that he can tonight. I mean, seeing that step in 3-pointer from about 32 feet was, I mean, I didn't know he had that in his bag. So it's pretty encouraging to see that it's not just a couple of games fluke. It's 6 out of 7 games. He has topped the 20-point mark. The one game he didn't was that second night there in San Francisco, had 9 and 9. So even when he's having a bad night, he's creating and producing other ways. So that's obviously my biggest takeaway of the whole summer, really, is that I'm excited about Keegan Murray. And basically, it's just, how can you not be excited right now? I mean, but before I get into the next things, I have a couple more things too. I mean, I know you do too, but let's just start with Keegan. I mean, were you even surprised? Or at this point, is it not surprising? Is it just kind of, even when he's having a quiet night, quote unquote quiet night, you look at the box score, through a quarter or two, and he's already flirting with a double double. Is that like surprising to you, or do you just kind of come to expect that?
It's like weirdly a little bit of both. I don't expect the extent of the numbers that he puts up, or at least I was expecting him to put up numbers, but there's at least 1, 2, 3 plays a game where I'm like, that's a little different. You mentioned that ridiculously deep three. He had that shot at the end of the first quarter that was just like phenomenal footwork, and he hit super contested over 1 or 2 Phoenix defenders. There's been some moments that he's creating off the dribble that we've seen in some of these games. The Indiana game, I think he had back-to-back possessions of doing that offensively that really stood out to me. So I think that the way that he's been able to create some of these looks has surprised me at times, but I mean, this is kind of what Keegan did at college too. I don't know that I thought it would instantly happen in Summer League, and I'm really, really close to saying that I think his ceiling is maybe a little bit higher than what I had initially thought. But
What was that initially?
I just didn't think he would make an All-Star game, I guess is a way to say it. And now I am starting to think that he could, sneak into 1 or 2 throughout his career. I don't think he's a perennial All-Star or anything like that, but I think it's potentially in the cards, and I don't know that I would have said that before. But I was supposed to not be saying this yet, Frank, and you just pulled it out of me because it is Summer League, and I feel like I should calm down,
I know, but it just seems to me, and I'm not trying to have it be like a King's cop-out. It just, to me, I don't want to say it's different, but the way that he's doing it just seems so, I don't want to say unimpressive, but it's just effortless, maybe is the right word, because imagine him in the lineup with Fox and Sabonis and with Harrison Barnes if he's still around, which I believe at this point he will be unless they make a big move. But he's not taking the ball and playing hero ball or anything. He's only created kind of off of one-on-one or on his own maybe a handful of times, and today was one of them where shot clock's winding down. He had to kind of step in and take that long three. That doesn't happen too much with him. And it's not like we're seeing this again. I said hero ball, but I just kind of want to reemphasize it because that's what usually you see in Summer League. Guys that are the top 4 or 5 pick kind of taking over and trying to do too much. And he's not doing too much. He's doing the perfect amount. 8 of 14 from the field today, 4 of 8. He's a catch and shoot threat. He's someone who has I'll say a little bit of ability to create on his own. And that's impressive to me that he has so much room to grow, but he still is a far ways along already as it is, as a rookie. So that's kind of like the fun part of it, that we get to have someone come in who, in my mind, is probably the leading candidate to start at the power forward position or small forward, whichever one Harrison Barnes is not playing come opening night. But it's just, I feel good about it. I feel real good about it.
Absolutely. Anybody on YouTube is going to see me occasionally highlighting comments here as people kind of start to filter in, and we'll have a Q&A segment a little bit later. I see somebody asking about a starting lineup or if Keegan should be playing next game. We're going to get to those specific questions we've already had asked a little bit later. The other thing that I've seen with Keegan, while I have been intrigued of maybe there is more upside because of that self-creation flashes that you've kind of touched about, I also think that there's been a handful of moments where it's like it's really easy to see how this works with Fox and Sabonis. There's a lot of dribble handoffs going on with the Keita, and it's like, okay, if that's Sabonis, this is just working even more smooth. There's been a handful of back cuts where Keegan's reacting to guys kind of top blocking and worried about him from beyond the perimeter, and there's a couple back cuts that maybe he's not getting the pass that he could, and Sabonis is going to hit those. Like, we're seeing Keegan do this as a number 1 option, that the defenses are so keyed in on him when he's going to be the 3rd or 4th guy out there on Sacramento's roster. So it's just like so easy to see how this clicks right away. The one other guy, do you have anything else on Keegan before I move on to some of the other guys that we saw?
No, just I mean, I don't know if you wanted to have this be a separate conversation later, but he's done, right? I mean, he hasn't played in the 4th quarter. I don't think he needs to play tomorrow. I mean, I think it'd be fun if Jabari Smith and Keegan play each other, but I'd imagine both are probably going to be inactive for I don't want to say meaningless, but they're not playing for anything tomorrow. So I would say, to me, I would believe he's not going to play. Not playing in the 4th quarter has me believing he's not playing tomorrow. Are you in the same camp?
I think so, But I don't really know. Like, he really can win Summer League MVP. And he might already be the favorite.
Shouldn't he already be it? I mean, Cam Thomas had a great summer for sure, but maybe we see like a co MVP situation again.
I think it's what happened last year, right? Cam Thomas and Davion Mitchell both got that. I believe.
Is it Cam Thomas again? That's right. Is he doing it again this summer? Yeah, he's doing it again this summer.
Yeah, he's a second-year guy, and I think
he already
won
won
the broadcast today. Yeah, he already has one.
Give it to somebody else.
Get one. I'm absolutely with you. No, I think that Keegan's up there. I think Quentin Grimes is the other one that's talked about a lot. I haven't caught the most New York games, admittedly, or when I do, I'm just watching Daquan Jeffries on that roster because, of course. So I think that there's other people to be considered, but I think that Keegan has been phenomenal. I mean, outside of now, he's played Paulo Banchero, he's played Chet Holmgren, and he's played Benedict Mathurin, and been the best player on the floor for all of those games. Like, I think the Paulo one is a little bit debatable. Paulo had a really good game in that one, but I think that they went back and forth, and no question with those other Benedict Mathurin and Chet Holmgren that Keegan was easily the best guy out there, and he's matching up against them and vice versa in some of these. So I've been super impressed. I'm okay, very okay with him not playing tomorrow against the Houston Rockets. I also would be pretty excited, I guess for the sake of my own viewing experience, if we did get a Keegan Murray versus Jabari Smith Jr., because, who doesn't love to see two lottery picks go at it?
Yeah, I just feel like unless that's happening, unless they get word from Houston that, hey, we're playing Smith, or they hear that Smith's playing, I would, even if Murray wants to play, because he wants to play, I would just at this point, we've seen it. 6-7 out of 7 games, 20 points per game. We get it. Let's put it, holster it for now, and let's wait till October. That's just kind of the way I feel about it, because we've seen what we need to see from him. So play it safe. I don't think it ever hurts to play it safe at this point in the summer, especially when it's the Kings and their luck.
Yeah, for sure does not, because if something, knock on wood, were to happen to Keegan, we would never forgive them for him playing in this game. So absolutely see where you're coming from there. One of the other guys I want to talk about, DJ Stewart, who did play today. He played a little bit in the last game that they played as well. I believe that he was unavailable for the first games of Vegas, and I also believe, actually, I'm not sure about the Cal Classic. I want to say that he maybe played in one of those games, but he was in street clothes at the beginning of Vegas, and I believe that there was an injury. I'm not doing my job by not knowing exactly what it was.
Oh, there's a
but there was a
Sorry,
slight
buddy.
injury. You're totally fine. It's not loud. So I think that DJ Stewart was probably the guy that was meant to be starting initially. When they let us watch a full practice, I guess, / training camp, whatever you want to call it, prior to them going to the Cal Classic, DJ Stewart was the guy running with the unit of DJ Stewart, Keon Ellis, Keegan Murray, Jared Rhoden, and Amir Skata. So I think that DJ Stewart was the guy that was supposed to be the starter.
But did this injury happen in practice? That's what I mean. It was never disclosed to us, but again, also I think we kind of just got into the Frankie Ferrari distraction. Frankie Ferrari starting at point guard, and we kind of just took that and ran with it, and that was kind of the talk for a little bit. We didn't really. I think we kind of forgot about it, because I remember that second game, I was thinking, where is DJ Stewart? Because he did play well for Stockton last year. He was with the organization last season. Why isn't he playing right now? Because you'd think a team that they want to see their organizational guys play, but I guess not. But tonight he played well. Like, I was impressed by it, and I see why the Kings are sticking with him in Stockton. And I would have liked to see more of him over Frankie Ferrari, obviously, through these summer league games in Las Vegas. But again, it seems like it wasn't in his control. It seems like he was battling something. But like I saw tonight, didn't have a great night from the field, but it was the other things I saw, just him creating on offense. The shot looked good coming out of his hands, just wasn't falling as much as he probably would have liked. But yeah, I was impressed by it. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I'm shocked right now, like pulling up the box score. I'm like, holy shit, he went 6 of 17. Like,
it wasn't great. I thought it was better too. I thought it was like,
yeah,
7
he had
of
a
11.
really good first quarter, and by the end, it almost was like he was trying to do a little bit too much. His floater in between game wasn't really falling. He seems like a guy that when he has the other options out there, that he's solid at setting them up. But if he's like feeling like he needs to be creating a little bit more for himself, that it wasn't going great. Because I thought he was playing really solid at the start of this game, and then that fourth quarter was pretty ugly for everybody that was out there, and a lot of that has to do with Keon and Keegan and Nimi not being out there for a majority of it. Keegan, not any of it. It was a disgusting fourth quarter. It was kind of reminiscent of, I think, what the Kings have been on the opposite side of a lot throughout Summer League in these crazy comebacks.
I was going to say it was kind of reminiscent to what the Kings do during the regular season. Just that usually it's a third quarter, but just you have your main guys out, and they all summer long the bench has been bad. I mean, the Kings bench this summer has been bad. There isn't really someone you can go look at and say they're a total bucket getter. I mean, Sean McDermott had a nice run for a couple of games there. Matt Coleman was good for a while as well, but he also was a starter, I think, for a game or two there. But there really wasn't any. There wasn't really a great option, or even a feasible option in the bench this summer. So that's kind of a difference between this summer and last season, just off the bat, right there. I think is why we're not looking at a game on Sunday for a ring, mind you. Wow, a ring.
Give us nice 2 of those ring too.
Give us those look heavy, man, for Summer League. And I can't remember who said it in an interview. I think it wasn't Keon, was it? Someone said, yeah, like hell yeah, I want one of those or something like that. It's
how could you not? I want one. Is there any way that happens?
When are you going to wear a Summer League ring though? Really, you'll wear it the day you get it, and do you get them immediately? Do you have to be sized for them? Is this really what we're doing? I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I don't know if I like it.
This is going to start getting added to the resumes. Like we're going to be talking about pitching Keegan's Hall of Fame. His Hall of Fame pitch later in his career, and it's like
people are projecting
he's got 3 rings, and one of them's a Summer League ring.
I will say, if we have a banner hanging from 1951 or 50, is that the right year? I mean, I'm not 51. Yeah, 51, I think. Yeah, if we have a banner hanging from 1951 and a Pacific Division banner hanging from 2002, we could probably put up a Summer League banner. And I made a picture at one point as a joke. Just like that Summer League, like raise the banner thing. But it's like kind of like, if we're going to have those, like, what's the point? Let's just hang up everything we do, Why not? They should have hung up. Go ahead.
Who was the guy that opened Golden One Center and they have a banner of an artist up there?
Paul McCartney. We have a Paul McCartney banner. Yes. We have a Sleep Train Arena banner. I'm surprised we don't have a Tyreek Evans 25-5 banner, because that's something that we would do. Or DeMarcus Cousins 56 points. I'm telling you, it sounds crazy, but that's something we should do, because we don't have any banners the past 20 years, pretty much.
It's pretty hilarious. At least hang them up in Cox Pavilion, which,
like a high school, like win a high school championship or a banner, and they hang it up in there. Yeah, they should have like a banner for each Summer League championship in Cox.
Why not? Yeah, a little insight, by the way, into the Vegas trip. Cox Pavilion is just the easiest joke in your life.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of times that name got thrown into some sort of joke was just too often. It's too easy. They really should debate, working something out there to maybe
Cox Center's huge.
Yeah.
And all these people in here.
Yeah, it's been interesting for sure. The other news of today was the Kings signing KZ Okpala, who was on the Nigerian national team with Chimezi Metu, head coach Mike Brown, Jordy Fernandez, and Luke Laux as well. So, and I did mention Chimezi Metu there, I think. So now the Kings are working with 2 different players between Metu and Okpala, and 3 different coaches that were on that Nigerian national team, which is a little bit interesting. Can't help but wonder if Sacramento would have been able to land a guy like Okpala without that sort of influence and pre-built relationship that Mike Brown and some of the other coaching staff has. But a little bit of background on Okpala. 32nd overall pick in the 2019 draft. He's 6'8". I've seen him at 6'9" in some places, with a 7'2" wingspan, and he's just 23 years old. He spent 3 years with the Miami Heat and could never really break their rotation. I went back and watched a little bit of the USA and Nigerian, I think it's technically called a friendly, because it was like a warm-up in a way for the was that FIBA, or it's actually the Olympics that was. And I think that Drew, that local guy, I think it is on Twitter, did a little film thread of it as well, so you can check it out.
I love that guy, by the way. That guy,
He is hilarious.
his videos, oh my goodness. And that's where the Arby's craze comes from. Kings fans are turning
Yes.
like an Arby's fan base because Drew's leading the charge, man. So Arby's should cut him a check.
And the whole Adin Alberto's, like, have you noticed that all of those restaurants are spelled differently in different places? Like, I have one near me. I definitely had one of their breakfast sandwich burritos this
really?
morning. The name is spelled differently at every single one of the places. Like, I swear they just ordered the
sure?
wrong amount of letters. Yes.
Or is it like the
Yes.
Mandela effect, like the Burstein Bears and stuff like that, where you think
I'm
it is
pretty sure.
something?
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure I've looked this up. I'm gonna have someone fact check me on this pod and let me know because I'm very curious. But I'm pretty sure that is the case. But yes, Drew uploaded some clips from that USA and Nigeria game, and you can kind of see the way that Mike Brown is using Okpala to guard Damian Lillard, like the versatility that Okpala has on the defensive end. Mike Brown even said he thinks he has Defensive Player of the Year potential, which who knows? Who knows how much is lip service and hyping up his guys? You know, I'm not sitting here saying that. That's for sure. But it's telling that he was starting on that team and playing a significant role. The issue with Okpala is his offensive game. He was 5'10" his freshman year of high school, so he has guard skills that slowly developed or stuck along as he continued to grow. And it's almost like these dribble handoffs and okay at putting the ball on the deck, and he has good athleticism and the length that I mentioned of a 7'2" wingspan for finishing. Like, I think in transition he could be all right. It's the jump shot that is not the prettiest looking thing.
No.
And Chris Haynes was the one that reported that the Kings signed him to a 2-year deal. What is your initial reaction, Frank, to seeing KZ Okpala joining the roster?
I mean, obviously, I don't think a lot of us knew too much about him coming into today, but like you, I spent some time kind of looking at some film. I watched the tape. Shout out Luke Walton. I watched the tape, looked at some things. Obviously, his length is going to be very needed on this team. They don't have a backup small forward right now. Technically, he is it, which is kind of it's not the most attractive backup because, like you said, you want to have more of a scoring punch. I get that, but I like the idea of him being a specialist or being someone that can play on a matchup basis, like a need-to-need basis. But he is 23, and the Kings do have a very good coaching staff. Now they do. I mean, on paper, it's a good coaching staff. They can hopefully work with him. Maybe Sabonis can get him in touch with Lethal Shooter because his workout videos have been crazy, which I don't know when we're going to talk about that, by the way. Domantas Sabonis' workout videos and shooting videos this summer have been, I mean, it's kind of not the Hoodie Mellow. It's not in the Hoodie Mellow range, but in Kings fandom lore, it's like Sabonis' shot, he might really be something big this year. So maybe KZ can get in touch with those guys. But it's a good move for it's a young player to come into a young core, because I've said it before. I think we talked about it over the weekend in Vegas, how the Kings are kind of back into that, not quite the super team, just young discussion, but they now have a young core again. And there's some guys that are drafted and that they've had. There's some guys they've traded for and some guys they've signed. Because we look at Sabonis, Fox, Sabonis being the oldest, Sabonis, Fox, Davion Mitchell, Keegan Murray. You bring in a guy like KZ to come fit in with Monk and Herter, guys they just brought in. I like that idea of the fact that they have these guys that are under contract for multiple seasons and they can kind of grow together, because that's what this team needs to do. They need to not go through 1 year and blow things up. Have young guys that aren't exactly polished like KZ. He's not polished by any means, but give him a chance to grow together, because given a year or two, maybe this guy can grow into someone to be a real rotation piece. But right now, what he is a lengthy defender who can defend the 3 through 5. He played mostly power forward and a little bit of center last year, which I found a little surprising, because I think some people are kind of pegging him as a small forward, but that's not really the case. So how do you see him as someone that's going to be power forward depth, or do you see him as someone that's supposed to be at the 3, or does it really matter? Is he like interchangeable?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that more often than not, I define positions by who you guard and your defensive capabilities. And with that for Okpala, it's interesting. Like you said, I spent some time watching a little bit of Miami stuff from last year, and I was surprised to see him playing the 5-2. A lot of those times, like PJ Tucker's out there too, and it's like they kind of share responsibilities a little bit as a 5. But I don't know, man. Like I think that he could be used even to guard like point of attack for some of these guards. Like I think he might be the second best guy after Davion at doing that on this roster. Well, shout out Keon Ellis, of course, but
What we make
it's
it 25
interesting.
minutes? 25 minutes without you giving him some love?
Yeah, it's a matter of time. We're getting
Okay.
there. We're getting
I'm sure he's on your list.
um, yeah, I mean, but weirdly, offensively is something that I think you have to think about Okpala's position because he does kind of work as a 5 on that end. Like I saw him in the dunker spot a lot, and again, running those dribble handoffs, like kind of functioning as a big. So unless he can clean that 3-point shot up, which he shot the ball pretty well as last year at Stanford, also talked about as an extremely bright person. Like there was a great Sam Vecini piece in The Athletic from that 2019 draft that I encourage everybody to go and check out, where it explains KZ kind of having to talk to his parents and explain that he wants to pursue basketball full time because they were always huge on education. He was taking AP courses during his time at Stanford, and there was also like a complication of he got benched for a portion of his first year at Stanford because his grades weren't quite up to par for Stanford standards.
So I'm guessing he had like what, a 3.7 instead of a 4.1?
I think it was a C- in this one course, which to be fair is not great. But I think the fact that he's trying to take AP courses while pursuing the NBA and a professional basketball player and going to Stanford, it does say a lot. Like he's talked about as an extremely intelligent person as well. So that's intriguing. And I've been really, I think, harsh on the Kings for saying that they don't have any upside swings on this roster. And I think that is what Okpala is, somebody that like you can cling on to the little flashes and be like, man, maybe there's something here in a little bit. He's only 23, and I think upside swings on these wing forward type talents is intriguing to me. Somebody says in the chat, basically a younger Mo Harkless. I've seen that a couple times. I think it's kind of accurate.
I'm okay with that because I wanted so badly Mo Harkless to be Mo Harkless for his whole Kings tenure, and it just never really happened. Like I really wanted him to be that guy that we saw in Portland, and it just never worked out that way. So if he can come and be 2016, 2015 Mo Harkless, that is exactly what the Kings need. The Kings need that kind of guy who can play 3-4, defend 3-5, and have some athleticism and maybe a little bit of potential to have that shot grow, because you have to have a little bit of an offensive game in today's NBA, at least a little bit and somewhat. And I know that he was a player there for Miami for a minute. So he comes from a winning program. He comes from SPO. Like he's going to come in and he'll have a little bit of a basketball background. And that's a good get for Monte McNair. He's trying to build this roster, like you said, with guys that have high upside. Because who was the last Kings player that we had that we talked about that the Kings had, not we. Who's the last player the Kings had that was kind of similar? Like Robert Woodard, I think.
Hell yes, Frank. It wasn't even you to say it. Yes.
I said the other name that you love. Bobby Woodard was the last Kings player that you looked at and said, if he could just figure it out on offense, he's going to be something else. And it just never happened.
I was so excited at that San Antonio game when I realized Robert Woodard was playing. It was ridiculous. I think that was the Chet game also. I forget who it was. It was some lottery pick matchup, and I was like, holy shit, Robert Woodard's out here. And I just thought
I think
it was
I think it was the Spurs and Celtics game we watched. I don't know. We saw a lot of people. I guess that game we watched Justin Jackson play. He had 24 points or something, but we left early.
Yeah. Justin, I think this is kind of a decent segue. I don't think that Okpala means the Kings have their small forward situation solved. I think that if you're relying on him to play 15 minutes a night as your backup 3, it's kind of a tough spot. So, Justin Jackson? not actually the idea of Justin Jackson, but more so like they need another 3 on this roster still. Do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of people out there are clamoring for the Matisse Thybulls to come over and kind of fill that role or something like that. I'm not sure if that's quite what's going to happen. It might be another one of those, whoa, like who's that? Because I think not half of people on Twitter, but people I was getting reactions from were saying, who's that about KZ? And it's like, I guess it's kind of fair. I mean, he only played 21 games last year. He's played 64 games in his career. So I don't think it's a household. He's a household name by any means. And there's going to probably be a couple more of those players that Monty McNair is going to kick the tires on before he makes that decision. But if the Kings roll in the next season and they want to kind of go with Terrence Davis as their backup 3, that's a little undersized for my liking. I think they need to bring in one more 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" even range wing, because they aren't a total complete roster right now. I think that having that one other move can make them that much more polished. Because if you look at the guards, in my mind, the guards are set. Guards are set. I think center is set. If you are going to roll into the season with Sabonis, Holmes, and Len, even if that's going to be your pick, Len or Keita, to me, there's a discussion there. I think could be had. So small forward and power forward are the ones you need to figure out. Keegan Murray is a great start. If Harrison Barnes is around, that's a great start too. Trey Lyles back in the fold, sweet. But the small forward in particular is the number one area of need on this team.
I am with you, and I want to ask you a little this or that with minutes per game with some of those guys that you just walked through. But as Jason points out in the chat here, this is the quote from Sean Cunningham of apparently what just happened. Sean Cunningham tweeted, Neemias Queta received stitches in his lip following the slam into the media table that fortunately did not kill me or my laptop and camera. Somehow that table survived too. Holy shit. Sean, we need to see this footage, first of all.
Did he get the footy?
I hope so. And we're going to find out. We're going to find out what the hell. I guess Queta was not happy with his play. I'm assuming that that's what it was about. Wow.
Or did he go for a loose ball at some point in the game that we missed? I don't know. Or was he really angry? I mean, he had a good game. I was about to say that my other takeaway was he had a nice bounce back. He had a rough 23rd birthday. He had 1 point. Not great. Tonight, double-double. I mean, what more do you want?
Yeah, what the hell? Shocked by that one. God, right after we leave, everything gets good, you know? Okay, well, as we wait for a Sean Cunningham update at some point and pray that there's video of that, you're going to do a little this or that. And I have 2 different options here for you. And the first one I'm starting with, it has to do with both of the two-way guys. And the first one we're going to do, who would you rather see get more minutes per game or just more minutes with the Sacramento team this season? Neemias Queta or Alex Len?
Neemias Queta, because we talk about upside, players that have upside and who are a part of the plan. And Alex Len was not great last year. I think he had 1 game where he had 18 and 10 randomly. It was something crazy. He wasn't the same Alex Len we saw a couple of years ago. And I think that when you have someone like Queta who does have flashes of a guy who can both be a rim protector, someone who can be a lob threat. We saw a lot of that in Summer League. And who is mobile for a big man. I think you kind of need to tap into that. And he's on a 2-way. He's going to play a lot in Stockton. I think the Kings are of that mindset. They want to probably give him 1 more season to play every night he can, which will mean he'll be in Stockton more so than not. But if I could wave my magic wand, I would make that happen. But what probably is going to happen is going to be Alex Len will be the 3rd string center, or they'll find somebody else that's more established. But I wish it could be Queta. I want to see what he has. What about you?
I do too. I think I still lean Alex Len though. I think that Alex Len is better than what we saw last year. Like last year was obviously a complicated season for him with the center roster just being so crowded and obviously everything that happened with his home country, Ukraine. Like it was just an extremely complicated situation for him. And I think that we've seen Alex Len be a really quality center in the NBA. So I think that I still would have Len above Queta in the pecking order, but I'm certainly not mad if it is the other way around and that they want to see more from Queta, especially if we're talking about the 3rd center in the rotation with Sabonis. And then if Rashawn Holmes is still around, assuming that those guys are both 5s, it's like, I don't know where Leonard Queta is getting many minutes anyways, outside of situations where maybe one or the other of those first two guys ends up going down for a little while because of an injury, or say Rashawn Holmes gets traded. Like, I think wouldn't be the most surprising thing. Then you're talking about a little bit of a different situation. And I think that I'd rather have Len be the second string center than Queta, but I don't mind trying him. I think that he's been impressive, especially in Vegas. I think he had a great bounce back in Vegas after a really tough time at the California Classic. His finishing has been intriguing. I think that his defensive positioning is solid, and he has good size. He still brings his hands down a little bit too often when I think he could stay vertical, and that's something that Jordy Fernandez pointed out to us. And you still really see that with Nimi. I think that that's something that's really going to hurt him at the NBA level right now, but luckily, I think that that's one of the easier things to kind of clean up with someone's game, and just takes a little bit of time and kind of discipline, so you're not instinctually kind of still swatting at everything. So next one I have is Keon Ellis and KZ Okpala. This one's a little bit different because I know that they are significantly different positions, but in my mind, the reason I laid these two out is because I think that you're talking about still somewhat like the backup three situation. Would you rather have Keon getting minutes here and there as the two, and then you're seeing Herder or Terrence Davis playing the three a little bit more often? Or would you rather see KZ Okpala be getting some minutes at the three? Who would you rather see between Keon Ellis and KZ Okpala getting more minutes with Sacramento next season?
I'm going to say KZ, because if it's Keon, I know you love Keon. I like Keon too.
That's going to do it for Frank.
But I'll see you guys later. But if we're seeing Keon, it means something bad happened to one of the Kings' top four guards: De'Aaron Fox, Davion Mitchell, Kevin Herter, Malik Monk. If we're seeing Keon Ellis, there's a good probability that one of those guys is injured. And for that, I'm going to say KZ, because also KZ just matches that position of need. If KZ can come out and he can be a difference maker next season, or if he does come out into training camp and they don't make another move as the starting three, or sorry, bench three, and he is the bench three going in, and he can turn some heads, I'm all for that. So right now I'm more inclined to go with KZ, just because, again, position of need, Kings need length, but Keon, I've been very impressed with him this summer. I mean, that picture of the Bobby Jackson, the deflections, that was a great catch, by the way, because you were saying you wish that someone was keeping track of it. Well, Coach Bobby was. So he was all over the place. It said
at the top that was the Magic game. I'm assuming they did this for every game.
Yep, because I'm guessing there isn't that kind of those metrics aren't being measured, as far as the deep analytic stuff is not being measured in Summer League. Which,
how dare they?
Come on, NBA, what are we doing, man? It's 2022. So I like Keon Ellis's game, and I hope that he does get a crack at an NBA rotation at some point. Hopefully here. But with the way he plays defense, I'm sure he will sooner than later. But I have to go with KZ for the time being.
This is going to be a shocker. So do I.
Wow.
It's just positionally.
What?
I know. Well, it's just because, Keon's are obviously going to get his opportunity.
Keon's not going to talk to you next time we're in practice, man.
I think that KZ is just as of where the roster is right now, without the size with them lacking size on the wing and forward positions, and especially versatility, I think guys that can move their feet well and also have that size, I lean towards KZ. And I also just want to see what he has a little bit more. I feel like Keon is a more simple player that you just know how he's going to work. His style of play is very straightforward. I mean, it's just typical 3-and-D, like a ball hound that's just getting a ridiculous amount of deflections and steals. And then it's KZ, maybe it's just because I'm not as familiar, but I'm more curious and want to see him get opportunity to see what that looks like. And maybe there's more. I think if they're going into the season again with either one of those guys playing significant minutes, you're probably not in a very good spot. And there's probably still another move that needs to happen. But that's where I'm at with that. And I think it's time to get to some of these Q&A questions.
Yes, lay them on us.
Anybody in the chat, if you have questions that you want to throw our way, we will answer them in this portion here. And I'll probably scroll back up here to kind of go through some of them as well. Here's one, Lil Drummer Bowie, or Boy, who knows? What did you see with how Keegan defends the perimeter? Will he hold his own, or would he need to come off the bench because his foot speed may not be NBA starter ready with Domas defending the paint? Let's go with the second. No, we'll do the first part of this question first. That makes sense. What have you thought of Keegan defensively? Because I've kind of, while I've been very impressed with him offensively, I've kind of been a little bit underwhelmed defensively. I didn't think he was going to come in and be a difference maker on that end. I thought he could just be part of a good defense, but not somebody that makes your defense good. And I think that that's maybe about what we've seen, but I do think that the foot speed isn't amazing. I'm not like thinking he's going to get targeted or anything, but there haven't been moments where I'm like, holy shit, he's a really good defender.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing him get beat off the dribble as much, getting blown by or anything like that. I think that he can more than hold his own, and I think arguably his foot speed might even be better than Sabonis's off the eye test. I mean, Sabonis isn't really known as a rim protector or lockdown defender by any means. So, I think that Keegan Murray is more than able to carry his own weight on defense. And while I don't think he'll be he's not going to blow anybody away on defense out the gate. He's not like a Davion Mitchell player where he's coming in and we're going to say, wow, this guy can really lock down forwards. I think he'll be a plus. I think he's going to be a positive to this lineup because the Kings, as we know, haven't been able to defend anybody for about 2-3 years now. So,
yeah,
can only go up
if not longer. Yeah, absolutely. The other part of that question is the starting five. And I think the way that it feels like an easy question to me. So I feel like people are asking our predictions based on if there will be trades involved and what we think the starting five will be. But I'm going to exclude that because I think it just makes it too complicated. So with the roster that Sacramento is working with right now, what do you think the starting five is, Frank? I feel like we're going to have the same answer here.
I mean, we can go together one by one, right? So I think we're both obviously the starting point guard is gonna be Frankie Ferrari. Frankie Ferrari is the starting point guard. Fox, obviously. The two guard, I think, is maybe the conversation people are kind of mixed on. I think it has to be Kevin Huerter. Do you agree with that as well?
For sure.
Kevin Huerter. Harrison Barnes at the 3, assuming he's still here, which I think that's pretty likely at this point. At the 4, I think you have to go with Keegan. I think you have to start him at the 4 if
they don't, I'd be shocked. I honestly would. It wouldn't make sense to me.
He is probably their second not second. He's probably the third best player right now, I would say. I mean,
yeah,
right?
I
Harrison Barnes.
Yeah,
there's a discussion. Okay,
he's
we'll
pretty
say
much
fourth.
another HB.
He's pretty much it. He's their fourth. We'll say third, fourth best player, leaning towards fourth, and then Sabonis. I mean, I don't know how else you can make an argument for Monk over Huerter. I don't know what else you can really go with though. I mean, Trey Lyles should not be the starting 4.
No, I am with you. I think that I was surprised that we got a couple people asking that question because I really thought that it was a straightforward answer, and I think it's exactly what you laid out. Like, the question, like you pointed out, is probably with the 2 guard between like Monk and Huerter, or some people will tell you Davion. As of right now, I kind of think that Davion needs to be coming off the bench because if you start both your point guards, it just makes for weird staggering in your rotation that you're kind of forced into. And I just think that Kevin Huerter is a decently better player than Malik Monk. Like, he's
all around,
yeah, just as good of a shooter. I think that he's kind of a better passer. He has more size. I think the biggest difference to me is on the defensive end. Everybody talks about how Monk's a lot better defender last year. I'm still not sure how I feel about that. I think he's somebody that still is probably teams are going to attempt to target him. And I don't think Kevin Huerter is that. Like, we saw him guarding point of attack during his time in Atlanta, and I don't think that that's the most ideal role for him or anything like that, but I think it speaks to him being capable on that end. And I just think he's a better defender than Monk and has better size that, I mean, all of a sudden the Kings are working with like 3 wings that have good size, because I want to say Kevin Huerter's 6'7", and then you have 2 6'8" in Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray as your starting lineup. Like, I think that it's really solid there. Someone in the chat is saying start Matthew Dellavedova, Australian icon. And this goes into another question that we got on Twitter at Aussac, AUSSAC1. Thoughts on prioritizing adding an Aussie? A 16-year drought can be snapped with such an obvious move. Aussies are good culture guys and winning players. Note Ben Simmons is an exception to the rule.
No.
Have you seen this joke that like every good team has an Australian player on it?
Is that true? Like,
I forget where it is.
The Spurs had Aaron Baines, right? And he's trying to make his way back. He was kind of injured. He got a scary thing.
Crazy story.
He had a scary thing where he passed out in the bathroom at the Olympics and stuff.
That like nobody knew about until way after it happened.
Yeah, relearn how to walk. I mean, that's scary. But I'd rather take him if he's healthy. If he's healthy and he's on the way back. I mean, the Kings need power forward help.
I thought you were a known Matthew Dellavedova guy.
I'm not a Dellavedova guy. He's not really a shooter. Someone says he's a shooter. He's not a shooter. He's like 34% for his career from three. He's like 37% from the field for his career. I mean, he's not a shooter. He's just a guy that's going to be a pesky like presence. And the Kings could use someone like that, sure. But I hope they use a roster spot on someone else. That's just my thought process. Sorry, not to offend the great country / continent of Australia, but not a Dellavedova guy.
I'm not the biggest Dellavedova guy either. I'd be okay with it. Like, it's third string point guard. I'm really not all that worried. Like, I think the fact that the Kings' third string point guard options right now are Matthew Dellavedova, Quinn Cook. Who knows if Dennis Smith Jr. is part of that. His jump shot was very interesting in that workout video. It's very interesting. I don't know how to feel about it. But that being your third string point guard options, I'm fine with. That is a solid group for a third string point guard. I did not mention Shabazz Muhammad because I still do not understand why he was a part of that grouping.
I mean, I'd probably say the KZ move takes them out of the Shabazz Muhammad market because they did bring in a small forward / power. The market, it's a hot market. It's there's the Kevin Durant trade market, and then there's the Shabazz Muhammad free agent market. So,
yeah, that definitely exists for sure. Let's see, who are your day one starting five? We already touched on that from Rusty Lower on Twitter as well. Devin Hestand at ATC on Twitter.
Stop it. I already know this one.
Better under the radar prospect, Frank. Keon Ellis or Good and Plenty's? What's more underrated?
I'm not going to get into this right now. this guy, we're in Las Vegas. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada. Sin City. And this man, like a 72-year-old that's about to watch Deal or No Deal or something, puts Good and Plenty in the fridge. So I have to go into the fridge when I'm trying to get my carrots. Thank you. And see Good and Plenty.
Frank, what's worse, Good and Plenty's or carrots, dude? I don't know. You're the only man I've seen eat carrots in a while.
Carrots are good for you. They're very good for you. I love carrots. Good and Plenty are for old people. You can't change my mind.
Carrots are for old people too, for sure.
It's a vegetable, Brendan. You ever seen a vegetable before?
Not sure about that one. All right.
Why you gotta make us fight like this? Brendan and I fight like this.
And I love that Jason Ross pointed out that they have to be chilled. They don't have to be chilled, but I do more often than not put like every candy that I have.
It's like you're like equating this to like a Twix bar, which is like delicious when you put it in the fridge, or like Reese's cups or something. This is different.
Chocolates. Yeah.
Chocolates. Yeah.
My hot tamales were in the fridge too.
What's the next question? What's the go to the goddamn next question right now.
Let's see. We got L Dude from the YouTube live chat. What do you guys think of Sasha Vezenkov not coming over this season? Was that a tiny bit of a swing and miss by Monty? I guess I'll start with this one on Vezenkov. I think it's fine. I think that it seemed like they wanted him to come over, and maybe the Kings got used as a little bit of leverage. First time that's ever happened in the history of this franchise. And he might be trying to get a little bit more money overseas. And he's just not somebody that like I would want to throw the biannual exception at. I'm not sure that he's that caliber of guy. If they did it, then like maybe I would trust their analysis and kind of how they feel about him. But I don't think that it's a swing and a miss either, because what was it, the fifth? What pick was that? 49? I think it was 49.
49th pick, yeah.
And they still have his rights. Like we could be having this same conversation next year when Trey Lyles and Chimezie Metu have expired and maybe there's a bigger opportunity. So I'm not all too disappointed. I think it would have been nice to see him come over, but it was also like, where is his role on this roster right now? And we could still have this same conversation next year.
Yeah, like would it have been fun? Yeah, it would have been fun. But I guess he kind of used the NBA interest to his advantage, and he got a little bit of a raise over there in Greece. And he, like you said, they have the rights, and I think he'll be someone that will be in a Kings jersey sooner than later. But it's not make or break. I mean, it is scary if they were to give him that biannual. That's what, $4 million, I think, $4 million per year.
Something close to that. I think it's 2 years, 7 or 8. So yeah, right around there.
So I think they could probably do something else with that. That's more of a a proven NBA player. I don't know who that is yet. But
Yuta Watanabe is my last hope.
That's
here.
another guy. I've been seeing some names, or that name out a little more. No, I think it would have been cool if Sasha would have came over, but it seems like the Kings are very high on him, and I would bank on him coming over next year. Just my hunch.
Yeah, I think that's roughly where I'm at too. John here points out carrot cake.
It's delicious.
And he's right. Carrot cake is good. May
Delicious.
not have expected me to be that way. Snickers ice cream bars. Have we ever tried Snickers ice cream bars?
Yes. When I was in high school, we'd go to the 7-Eleven and we'd always be picking them out of the freezer. They're goated for sure.
Goated. Wow, look at you, young guy Frank over here.
I'm in my 20s.
I know you are. You always just talk like you're so much older than me, you know?
Because I am. I'm like 3 years older than you are. So you're a freshman. I was a senior, right? That's where we're at.
That's a way to put it. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Closing death lineup. He says Davion has to be in there. Again, this is Lil Drummer Boy. I haven't thought about this yet. So I think for sure we're talking about De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray. I think those three are obvious. I think that HB is obvious too. Dude, I think it's the same lineup. And then if somebody's hot.
I think it's I think it'll be shooting guard by committee. I think it'll be either Davion or Herder or Monk. It's going to be by committee, I think.
Yeah, I could see a game
whoever's
where
having a good night.
Yeah, like maybe HB or Keegan isn't quite having a great game and you want to go a little bit smaller. Can you go Davion, De'Aaron, Herder, and then Keegan and Sabonis? Like, sure. I'd have no problem with that being a closing lineup. I think that HB is probably going to want to be out there and should
There's no chance he's not out. Right? Fox, Sabonis, and Barnes are for sure out there. I'd imagine there's an argument. I mean, if Keegan comes out and looks like Marvin Bagley the fourth, I mean, that's going to be an issue. But I don't think that's going to be the problem. I'll knock on one for that one. Don't need that. I do think that the shooting guard is going to be like a rotating kind of thing. But
yeah,
it could be Davion.
I can see it.
Like if the Kings are playing Portland and Davion's doing a great job on Dame, I could see Davion staying on the floor and Herder or Monk not being in. I don't know. It's just
I totally see where there's going to be games where it's like, shit, Davion has to be out there because he's just hounding Damian Lillard or Chris Paul and really like giving somebody fits. So I don't know, but like talking about this, and this is all just still in theory right now, it's a good option, a good problem to have that I don't think we ever would have been talking about last season. It's like, man, I don't even know how we can figure out the closing lineup because last year it was, damn, what the hell is this? Chris, we shouted you out at the beginning of this, man. We're giving you time to recover.
You're healing.
He said TFTI. I love it. Yeah, so I think that it's a good problem to have because the problem going into last season was what the hell is the closing five because there's only 4 players on this roster that probably deserve to be in a closing lineup. So it's a solid problem to have for sure. Let's see. I think I have one other one that I got to find really quick here before I go to our little overtime question that's here as well. What scenario?
It's getting dark in here. Is it dark in here real quick? Is it dark?
No, you're okay. You're lighting up the room, Frank.
I feel like I'm dark in here, but okay. Let's keep going.
We're almost done here.
Sorry, everybody.
What scenario can we end up with OG to help facilitate KD Raps trade? I am just reading these for the first time. I think it's a tough one for the Kings to still try to be involved with any of those deals. And and I think that
never a
people
breakthrough
wouldn't
without you,
wanna
Chris. Chris said
people
this feels like
wouldn't
a
wanna
breakthrough
hear.
episode. No way.
Yes, and that was a hilarious reference to a previous YouTube comment that we talked about while we were in Vegas.
Oh yeah, that's right. This was like a breakthrough episode. Maybe it
Yeah,
was.
yeah. It would be a breakthrough if Chris was still here.
Sorry, go through OG. I mean,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead,
think
sorry.
more often than not, what people aren't going to want to hear is that, like, if you're getting OG, you might be giving up Keegan.
or Davion and I don't know,
HB
maybe
or something. And,
HB.
like,
Do
the
they
picks
want?
is
Do they want
complicated.
that? Do they want
Yeah.
that? I don't know. I don't. Number one, I don't at this point honestly see Kevin Durant being traded. Maybe a hot take. I don't think that the Nets are going to trade him. I think at this point, and watch tomorrow morning and trade breaks. But I just feel like at this point it's looking more unlikely as time passes. They're expecting so much in return, and it seems like it's just not out there for them. People are just not wanting to give up a lot, but they're going to have to. It's Kevin freaking Durant. So I don't know.
am with you.
I love OG though, but
Yeah. Also, this is from @NotSockGod. Great name. It might be Frank. Mr. No Socks over here.
Burner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was comfortable in the Airbnb. We don't usually film our pods, and you know what? I'm not wearing socks right now either. What's up? It's 100 degrees.
Wow. Yeah. I tried to get a feet cam for this one, guys, and it wasn't happening. Maybe in the next one. It's a reference to our last episode. Anybody unaware? We were all sitting on a couch, and Frank had the dogs out. What other question we got?
It's 111 in Vegas. Let the dogs breathe, man. Ridiculous. Bunch of horse shit.
You have to. You have to. One of the other questions that we got from a couple different people, including @NotSockGod, final move that we can see Monty make. Like, pretty much, do we think that HB or Rashawn Holmes are moved? And I'll say I'm getting a little bit closer to thinking it's not going to happen.
No. I would say right now if I had to make a prediction, I think that Mike Brown really likes Rashawn Holmes. Rashawn was there for the introductory press conference. I think that we've, like, just in talking to people, I think we've come to hear and find that the organization does really like Rashawn, and the fact that Brown is big on him is gonna hold some value there. So I think that he probably will stick around. HB, it's a tough one because he's inexpiring, and I think that there's interest there for an extension, or was interest there for an extension, but I just don't know. If the Kings aren't going to extend him, they should look to move him. It's simple as that. If they aren't going to extend him, he's not part of the long-term plan, they should look to move him. And if it's not today, it might be in February when his value is a little less. But if there's a more likely of the two to get moved, it's going to be HB.
I think the same, but it's tough, right? Because they trade away HB, they need another HB. Like, they need the same position. We're already talking about how, like, they need a backup three, and I guess Okpala is that right now, but even him being, like, a consistent backup three isn't great. Like, I guess the idea would be that Keegan's playing the three, which I don't love, but that's fine. I also don't hate it. I think that we've seen moments where he has the capabilities of doing that. So I think that it's intriguing, and I'm kind of feeling more and more like Harrison might be on this roster at the beginning of next season. But also we heard Monty McNair say multiple times, unprovoked at the beginning of his introductory presser, like you said, that he doesn't think that they're done. So who knows? I'm really not going to be shocked either way. And honestly, I'm never been all too interested in being like an insider that's like telling you what I've heard and it's going to happen. This is just me guessing, not having heard anything. So for what it's worth. Last thing that we got, feet camera riot, by the way. The chat is demanding this from
You don't want to see that.
No, we don't. Yeah, please don't actually.
No one wants to see that. My feet, my mom has referred to them as caveman feet since I was a kid, and they're not cute or anything. So, no, but they're breathing.
I really was expecting a feet conversation in this episode for sure. Last one we got. I had an overtime segment that I wrote up, and I'm starting to bring this back. I was doing it for a little while and kind of fell out of it, but the idea for the overtime segment is a non-basketball question, just to kind of get to know our personalities a little bit more and kind of just joke around and be a little bit more loose. And this one comes from @MakersMisfits. With a loaf of bread, Frank, there's 4 options here. Do you always, sometimes, only out of necessity, or never eat the butt ends? The crust is what he says.
Absolutely 100% never.
Yes.
I would never touch that with a 50-inch pole, 50-foot pole. Any pole, nothing. I think I told you this before on the trip. I'm very, very picky about like old food or food that's expired. I mean, we were at the grocery store at Winco the night we got into Vegas, and we saw, again, what the hell? Is that like a health violation what we saw? That turkey,
sure.
Next to all the clean turkey, the deli meat turkey, we saw this one that was literally like someone put moss in a Tupperware. Disgusting. The ends of bread, I have always, since I was a kid, been scarred because you don't touch them till the end. And one time, my mom tried to make me a sandwich with it, and I was inspecting it to make sure it's cool, and I saw mold. So I do not mess with that. Do you? Tell me you don't. The good and plenty, I'll let it slide. But if you eat the butt ends of bread, you're actually a psychopath. I don't have that dog in me confirmed. What? Come on. That's about the deli thing. I know that's our Australian fan there. Sorry, deli.
The out of necessity, it's not like I would never, but it's like I have to be really in a pinch. I'm real hungry and not trying to go to the grocery store. I can see the grocery store from my apartment window, so that's what makes this a little bit of a different scenario. Like if I need more bread, I'm probably just gonna go get more bread. But
is it by the pizza place? Just get a pizza. The pizza was good that one time.
It's true. It is right there. But if the podcast check hasn't hit yet and I got to eat the last loaf of the butt of the bread, then I'm probably eating the butt of the bread. And I have my breakfast nearly every morning is the only thing consistent in my whole life, and it involves 2 loaves of bread. It's just an egg sandwich. And if I don't
2
have
loaves
that
of bread or 2
not
slices
2 loaves,
of bread?
2 loaves, 2 slices.
Holy hell.
Thank you. Good catch.
My guy.
So, if it's between using the butt of the bread or not having my same breakfast every day, then I guess I'm using the butt of the bread. I'm not feeling good about it, though.
No. When I was in school, my roommate and I, we'd share like a loaf of bread, and one time he had the last slices, and the 2 butts of the bread were there. And instead of having the bread, I ate tortilla chips for breakfast, and then I went to class. So I am dedicated to not ever touching the butt ends of bread. So
clearly dedicated. Any final thoughts here, Frank, before we wrap up, man?
No, I'm engulfed by darkness. It was a good summer league for the Kings. The team didn't win the championship, but I think seeing Keegan Murray play like a star is the way he looked. He was arguably the best player in the draft class. I mean, Paolo probably would have had a better. Not probably. Paolo was probably the most impressive, even though he played 2-3 games. But right? Didn't he play? He played a couple games before Vegas, right?
No, actually.
Did he only play 1?
I think he played 2. Because
Okay.
he also played. He played before that that game against the Kings. He played one other game prior to that, I believe.
He averaged 20 points per game, 40% from the field. I mean, he averaged 6 and 5, 2.5 steals. Yeah. So I mean, Paolo, who was the number 1 pick, and Keegan were probably 1-2. So that's kind of where I'm looking at as a win. So the Kings didn't win the championship. They don't get the rings. Maybe we can get a banner retroactively of the past couple times we've won it, but they have won it. I did it again. We talked about how we call the team, and we talk about the team, we say we. So, yeah, it's a win with Keegan. But that's my last parting thought is I feel good about Summer League. If he doesn't play tomorrow, I still feel good about it. So
I'm with you. If Keegan does not get the Summer League MVP, then we will absolutely riot.
What'd that guy say to James, the Portugal fan, to James about Nimi? It said, we will like rain upon Sacramento or something. We will like it was something.
I don't remember the line, but I know what you're talking about.
It was something wild.
To Chris's line that he says all the time is that they can't stop us all.
That's about the raiding Area 51 thing when everyone was gonna rush and jump the fence. Area 51. And I love it. Chris said it during the trip. They can't stop us all. So we will go riot outside of Cox Pavilion.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, or maybe we'll go somewhere else. We'll see. That's going to do it for this episode of the Kings Pulse podcast. Definitely check out Franklin Cardicelli at FCardicelli3 and the third amigo that's not here. I swear we would have invited you, Chris. I love you. And if you have not already followed Chris, yes, like I mentioned at the beginning, at Chris M. Watkins, definitely be sure to do that. Phenomenal content, and we're going to peer pressure him into having more Kings takes more often on there. Take a look at the Kings Herald for regular coverage from myself and all the other guys and gals there, and take a look at their Patreon to support local independent Kings coverage. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Kings Pulse podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review, and hear from us again in the next couple of days.